Well, welcome to our inaugural episode of Let's Talk Aging. I'm Gwenyth Johnson. I'm the CEO at Second Wind Dreams, and we are an organization dedicated to changing the perception of aging. This series has been designed to showcase others who are changing the perception of aging as well. Today, we're thrilled to have with us for a conversation Dr. Jay Bulot, who is our board president, but also a gerontologist, Vice President at WellSky, and former State Unit Director on Aging in both Louisiana and in Georgia. Welcome, Jay.
Hi, Gwen, thank you.
We're thrilled to have you, and you are our very first guest on our very first episode.
I'm honored.
Well, we're honored to have you. Can you tell us, what is your favorite thing about working with elders?
Oh, geez. So I've been working with elders my entire life, probably since I was old enough to think about it. And a lot of that's because my grandmother helped raise me and my brothers and sisters at a really young age. My mom had her first child when she was 15, so obviously my grandmother was an important part of our life growing up, and almost from my earliest recollection, I've always worked with aging, worked with my grandparents, worked with organizations in the community, and then when I went off to college, I kind of knew that that's what I wanted to do. And the first real work that I ever did was working in a geriatric psych facility, where I was able to work alongside social workers with individuals who were experiencing depression and other events in their lives, whether they were behavioral or physical, to help them improve both their outlook and their situations. And I've always done that, and I get a lot of joy and kind of that spiritual growth from that passion that I have. So it's rewarding. I like to see that I'm able to make an impact on people's lives, and it's comforting to know that there'll be folks like me when I get older doing the same thing.
Absolutely. That gives me a lot of hope as well. So you're with WellSky. Can you tell us a little bit about your organization and how they support aging?
Yeah. So WellSky is a global healthcare technology company. Has been kind of working across the continuums of care since the early '80s. And the work that I do, it's called our Human and Social Services division, and we work primarily with state units on aging across the country, as well as area agencies on aging and other community-based organizations. We also have businesses that use our software that work in the aging space. Post-acute care providers use WellSky. Nursing facilities use WellSky. Rehab facilities use WellSky. And if you've ever worked in healthcare, you know that the majority of the people they work with are older adults. But we have a large footprint in the home health, personal care, and hospice space. So really across our organization, the older adult is kind of central to everything that we do. And in the aging space, our goal is to help individuals stay at home and in the community for as long as possible. I think that's probably the unwritten goal of all of our divisions on the community-based side, is to help people age successfully, age in place, age where they want to. And I will say that, another large part of the work that we do is aligns really well with what Second Wind Dreams does, is, well over half of the ombudsman program, I think 60% of ombudsmen use WellSky as they work to advocate for older adults in long-term care facilities. So everything we do circles around it. And then, kind of from the philanthropic side, the WellSky Foundation, while, we recognize there's lots of vulnerable populations out there, we really try to focus in on community dwelling adults, children, families that are vulnerable. And the programming that we kind of target, aging, older adults, vulnerable populations as part of that. So, it's from a corporate perspective, from a volunteer perspective, and from our philanthropic approach. Elders, older adults are at the core of what we do.
You mentioned just now community dwelling. Could you talk for just a moment about that aspect of long-term care? Because I don't think it's what most people think about when we talk about aging and long-term
Yep.
care.
So, community dwelling. When I talk about that, it's you and me. It's our moms, it's our grandmas, it's our aunts, our uncles. Everybody, until they can't live in the community anymore, is community dwelling. But we don't think about that often with aging. Most individuals, when they start thinking about aging, older adults, they're picturing that 5 to 10% of the population that has had some trouble aging successfully. It's kind of how when I was an academic, we talked about successful aging, and healthcare and organizations like ours, from a technology perspective, we have very little contact, and I use that loosely, with people who are aging successfully. They go throughout their lives, they live like you and I do, and never have need for the types of services that might be coordinated, through a state unit on aging, through a protective services organization, or for the and long-term care ombudsman. Um, but it doesn't mean that the community dwelling older adults don't have challenges to remain there. And when we talk about changing perspectives on aging, I think it's important to recognize that in our society, in every society across the globe, um, aging is a relatively new concept. For most of the human civilization, the concept of aging ended at 45,
Mhm.
and you were old at 45. It's not except for the last 150 years that we've started to see people live past 60, 70, 80, 100 now, 115 now.
Mhm.
And our society, our cultures never really evolved to encompass that. So there's a lot of attention nationally around, how do we ensure that individuals can live successfully in their communities, of all ages, of all races, of all colors. Um, Now, I added ages to it. Most individuals haven't yet added aging as part of that diversity, equity, inclusion approach, because everybody does it, right? I'm going to get old. You're going to get old. My mom's already old, and my grandma's even older than her, regardless of race or gender or sex or anything. Um, but the aging experience is different, across cultures, across our country, and even in other parts of the world. And we need to make sure that as we look at different ways in which we help individuals live successfully in the communities, age successfully in the communities, that is part of the discussion as well.
Absolutely. Issues that we have when we're younger can just become exacerbated as we age. So if we're medically underserved as younger or middle-aged people, um, within the context of aging, that becomes quite severe.
Yep. But it's a little bit more than just that, and for years, in the academic world anyway, we've talked about ageism and the impact that it has on individuals. Um, but we've never really systemically addressed ageism. It happens, and it's accepted. Um, Mom's older, she doesn't go out as much. She doesn't need to go out as much. It's a type of ageism.
Mhm.
An individual who's an older employee, and they're not as productive anymore, and they lose their job. Well, that's a type of ageism. It's not that they're not productive. It's that we haven't addressed the ways in which to support those individuals. We've done a good job, or we are getting better at doing a better job, for people with disabilities as they age, as they enter the workforce, as they live in communities. But we haven't gotten as good as we look at people who have lived successfully in the community, and age has caused some deficiencies in how they live, and it's accepted that we don't have to do anything about it because they're just getting old. And it presents itself in various ways in different communities, from public policy to urban planning to just the availability and distribution of resources that are available. And it's unique to every community, but it's different in every community as well.
How can people become involved in supporting our elders and in preventing ageism?
Education. So, and it's easier said than done, right? It's just like every other ism that exists right now is we have our own innate beliefs about what it means. And we're going to carry those with us until we get exposed to um, other other facts that begin to change our perceptions of aging. Um, so, through our academic institutions, the first exposure that most healthcare professionals have is not with the healthy, active 90-year-old who bikes 100 miles every weekend. It's with the individual who has chronic COPD and they're wheelchair bound, and from a very early age, people believe that this is just what aging is like. This is what is normal. Um, so it starts at a young age to expose people to what the aging process is, what's expected, what's normal and what's normal, and sensitizing individuals to what that experience is like and how we act, how we build processes, programs, services, infrastructure, either helps or hurts.
Mhm.
So I think that's part of it. The other part is get involved in activities in your community. Um, there are organizations that serve every community across the country. Area agencies on aging or a prime one that has a focus not only on helping to support individuals who are trying to age in place, but also those who are aging successfully and need ways in which to connect with their communities. They're always looking for volunteers. They're always looking for people to be engaged with the folks they serve. But I think it's more than that. It is looking at what's already available in your community and saying, how do we embrace people of all ages, all races, all genders, and
Mhm.
bring them together in a format in which everybody could be successful and they feel welcome. And that takes purpose. Purpose by individuals, by community leaders, by the public to be able to accomplish that.
Fantastic. I think purpose for me is one of those things, finding my purpose over and over again throughout life is one of those things that helps me age.
Well, there's a whole field of research around purpose and around hope with aging,
Hmm.
right? And we know from years of data that's been collected that people who have of any age who have a purpose in life tend to be healthier, tend to be happier, and
Hmm.
tend to, age from my perspective, they age more successfully, right? So they're constantly engaged in their communities because they have a purpose, and that purpose doesn't have to be to change the world. It doesn't have to be to solve world hunger. It can be something as simple as spending 5 minutes every day when your neighbor's kid gets out of school, and you need to make sure that you're there for them.
Hmm.
Something as simple as that. Increases the connection we have with our communities and the way we're engaged there. There's a lot of work being done again more at the academic space realm around purpose, but it's important throughout our lives. Otherwise, you just kind of flounder around and look back at your life and say, "What did I do? What did I
Yep.
accomplish?"
One last question for you while we're here today. How do you change the perception of aging?
So I guess I kind of shared what I do myself.
Mhm.
So within my community, I'm involved with Second Wind Dreams. So that's an organization that is kind of dedicated to helping individuals change the perception and what is aging and what is normal, what is not normal. Um, I also teach classes. I teach college students about aging. For years and years and years, I taught classes called Perspectives on Aging that moves across the lifespan, different cultures, different social groups, and what aging looks like across the U.S. and the globe. In my professional life, with when we talk about technology, it is making sure that the technology that we make available assist individuals, and as lay people interact with older adults, that our technology helps them identify and work with that person to ensure that they are able to achieve the best outcomes possible for them. Um, and again, it's striving, it's advocating, it is being active in your community, both at the state level, or I should say at the local level, but also at the state level, and with our elected officials. I on a regular basis communicate with my legislators on issues that are important to an aging population, and to make sure that they understand all the different aspects of it. And not everybody can work at all those different levels, but if one person just does one thing and everybody does something, you'll start to see that perception of aging change a little bit.
Absolutely. Well, Jay, thank you so much for being with us today. I had a wonderful time. This was a great conversation.
Well,
Thank you
thank you for
all.
inviting me.
It's been my pleasure. And thank you all for joining us on Let's Talk Aging. I would encourage you to visit the Second Wind Dreams website, which you will see at the end of this broadcast. We are launching, or have launched, a new program called Dementia Interpreters. Please reach out if you have any questions around that. We would love to talk with you. And we'll see you next time on Let's Talk Aging.